talk about rules around the race course. And so this is focuses on part 2, which is when boats meet. And it's initially, and then, so U.S. Sailing has this set up. It's part of the club judge seminar if you're interested in becoming a judge. And so it's walking through the rules from a judge standpoint. Wait a minute. So you'll see how it, like if you've got position 1, position 2, position 3, how the rules change as the overlap's created or goes away, windward leeward is created, things like that. I also added some material from Speed and Smart. Dave Downbile produces that. I'm Wayne Balsiger. I'm a regional judge. I'm also chair of the U.S. Sailing Judges Committee and a staff Commodore here. I was Commodore in 1991 and got recycled in 2011. So welcome everyone. I know we've got some brand new members. Was it Lisa or Linda I met?
Lisa.
Just joined. Some of you recognize, I recognize, some I don't, but welcome. Okay, so we're going to cover key definitions, how they fit together around the race course. And what I'd like to do is kind of basically go through this straight and then try to keep the questions till the end. As I said, how the rules change as the situation changes, position 1, position 2. First, we talk about keep clear. So a boat keeps clear of a right-of-way boat. And that means if a right-of-way boat can sail her course with no need to take avoiding action, and when the boats are overlapped, if the right-of-way boat can also change course in both directions without immediately making contact. So if you've got a tight windward-leeward situation, you got, a foot or 6 inches between the two boats. If the right-of-way boat can alter course a little bit and increase that distance, then that's cool. But if they can't immediately touch, then the other boat do not keep clear. Room, the space a boat needs in existing conditions, including space to comply with their obligations under the rules of Part 2, which is boats, that's all the rules. And then Rule 31 is the mark, don't hit the mark, while maneuvering promptly in a seaman-like manner. So space the boat needs, bigger, faster boats need more room, big waves, strong winds, currents, or really light air, promptly with little or no delay, immediately. Seaman-like, befitting a competent seaman. So we're not talking about a beginner, we're not talking about an expert, we're talking about somebody who's competent to run their boat is the baseline for a seaman-like. And complying with rules of Part 2 and Rules 31. So mark room for a boat to leave a mark on the required side. So orange must give mark room at this point. So we have blue is entering the 3 boat length zone. They're entering first. There's an overlap. And so we call that the blue owns the mark. So mark room is defined as room for a boat to sail to the mark when her proper course is to sail close to it. And case 118 talks about room to sail to the mark means space to sail promptly in a seaman-like way to a position close to and on the required side of the mark. I'll talk about it now, we'll talk about it later too, but if you want to read nuances of how the rules apply, read the U.S. Sailing Appeals and the World Sailing Cases, because those are going through tricky situations and deciding, because there was a protest and there was an appeal, and then they decided that this is a really good example, we're going to publish it. In the case of World Sailing Cases, those are definitive rules. Definitive, that's the way it is. The appeals are guidelines. So anyway, it's really good. And then the introduction, the first section of the appeals book actually has a table of contents where they go through all the diagrams of the rules. I mean the cases that have a diagram. So if you're going, oh, I kind of remember this, or you want to look for a diagram that is similar to your situation, you can find it that way now. Okay, so we've got, one is trying to bear off here a little bit. They want to take a wide and tight rounding, for example. And so you can't do that. So what we have is orange is lured. So orange is the right-of-way boat. And while blue has mark room, that does not change the right-of-way. Orange is still right-of-way, and then in addition to that, blue has mark room, but orange is still right-of-way because they're lured. So the blue here can't take a wide and tight rounding like they might want to. They can sail straight to the course, which is, okay, so, yeah, so once at the mark, blue's entitled to space to round the mark because they have mark room. And rounding the mark is part of the rounding. Okay. So once at the mark, blue's entitled to round the mark, but not proper course. So, okay, all right. Rule 10, opposite tack. So this is the basic rule, of course, port starboard. So port boat shall keep clear of starboard tack. The tack is the tack. A boat is on a tack, starboard or port, corresponding to her windward side. Leeward and windward, a boat's leeward side is the side that is, or if she's head to wind, was away from the wind. However, if the boat's sailing by the lee or directly downwind, her leeward side is the side on which her mainsail lies. The other side is her windward side. This all making sense so far? And how's the pace? Too fast? Too slow? Okay. So here we've got keep clear again. A boat keeps clear of a right-of-way boat if the right-of-way boat can sail her course with no need to take avoiding action. And on opposite tacks, port boat shall allow starboard boat to sail her course with no need to take avoiding action. Obstruction. Now this gets interesting. An object that a boat could not pass without changing her course substantially if she were sailing directly towards it and one hull length away from it. So to me, it's really interesting. This is the definition. But if you've got some seaweed coming up that you would like to avoid, but you're still 6 boat lengths from it, your buddy here doesn't have to let you go around that yet. He can plow you right into it. And at 1 boat length, you can say, oh, I got to turn, but then you're like one boat length away. So interesting.
And if it's a big rock?
Well, it's the same. It's defined as 1 boat length. Now, I think with a rock, your neighbor is going to be a little bit more friendly.
Maybe. What about shoaling?
Because he doesn't want to pay an insurance bill if you ran you into the rock. What's that?
What about shoaling conditions if you're sailing towards shallow water?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Okay, so an object that can be safely passed on only one side and an object, area, or line so designated by the sailing instructions are also obstructions. So often, when we sail, we have the finish line is restricted unless you're finishing, and the sailing instructions designated as an obstruction. So what that means is, for example, you could hit the, well, don't hit the bots, but if it's the old style mark, you could actually hit the mark and you didn't violate a rule. And then as far as clearing it, the obstruction rules apply, not the mark rules. Also, down here where the ship's canal goes in, that's usually restricted. You can't go down there. And that's in another area that's designated in sailing instructions. However, a boat racing is not an obstruction to other boats unless they are required to keep clear of her, or Rule 22 applies to avoid her. And 22 is aground, capsize, etc. Yes, capsized, anchored, or aground, rescuing. A vessel underway, including a boat racing, is never a continuing obstruction. By the way, right now the rules are 2021, 2024, it's a quad. They change after the Olympics. The Olympics are this year in July. Actually, U.S. Sailing said they're in 50 days. So the rules are pretty much steady for 4 years, and then there'll be some changes that take effect January 1st next year. One of the changes is they're going to define continuing obstruction, where that's not defined today. For words that are not defined, it's just common English usage, dictionary usage. There are definitions in the front of the book that define words. So continuing obstruction is going to be defined next year. There's some minor changes to Rule 18, which is the mark rule. There was a test Rule 18 about 2 years ago, and following that test, they've adopted a couple things from that. And then also Part 5, which is okay, Part 5 is protests, redress, hearings, misconduct, and appeals. That's going to get all rearranged. Similar to in 2021, the exoneration rules are about 3 rules spread out throughout the book. They consolidated them all into Rule 43. So Part 5, they're going to reorganize it so it flows more logically. Not a lot of changes, just where it's located, all the rule numbers will change. Okay. Oh yeah, 22. I told that. Okay, key points about obstructions. Okay, so we have a starboard boat and 2 port boats. That's very common. So the object must be large enough to require a substantial course change to avoid if you're sailing towards it. The amount of course change required is determined from a point 1 boat length from the object. The size of the course change must be substantial. Okay. So here we have a starting area example. So we've got a boat luffing down by the pin, and blue and orange are overlapped approaching that boat. So is green an obstruction? John, I'll put you on the spot. You think green is an obstruction?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Who has right of way in this situation?
Green.
Okay, green is obstruction, and then between blue and orange, who has right of way?
At that moment,
Yes.
blue.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
they're lured.
because they're overlapped to lured. Okay, what rules apply? Okay, well, windward lured we know is 11. Well, it'll tell us in a minute. Okay, so this is the first situation. So in this situation, they're already overlapped. Okay, they're overlapped. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we've got, blue is deciding, blue gets to decide, because blue is lured, they get to decide which way to go. So as lured right-of-way boat, blue gets to decide which side of green she wants to sail on. So we've got this situation, and orange is hailing blue, I want room to duck. Does orange have the right to ask for room?
No. Well, they can ask.
No. Well, they can ask, but they're
Fair sailing, rule 2.
they don't have the right to the room.
Right.
Okay, green is of obstruction, so Rule 19.2a applies. Blue right away may choose the side on which to pass. So what happens once blue decides to go to leeward? Okay, green is not a mark. She is obstruction. Blue has to give orange right to also duck green. Now,
So blue should have gone straight
well,
and
blue,
just cleared green's stern.
But at that point,
blue has to, if blue decided to duck, she has the right to decide whether to duck or to go to head up to the right of green. Once blue decides to go to leeward, she also has to give orange rights to go with her.
To leeward of green.
Yeah.
because,
Okay.
Yeah.
because at that point, orange is within a boat length and needs to make a substantial course change, right?
Right.
So what's,
Yeah, blue
what's
cannot
preventing orange from making its substantial course change to weather as opposed to leeward?
Orange doesn't have to go to leeward with blue. If she wanted to luff up and, if orange wanted to luff here, there's nothing stopping her from doing that.
But blue couldn't say, no, you have to make the decision? I mean, because orange is coming in here, she has to make a substantial course change to miss green. But she could make that change in two directions, either to weather or to leeward. Does she get to choose, or can blue
No,
say?
blue is, we got a windward leeward overlap. Blue is leeward and has right of way. So blue determines which way blue wants to go.
Yes.
And orange gets to stay out of the way. Now, if blue ducks, and like this, then blue also is then required to give orange room to go on the same side.
Because of rule 18?
19.1.
Okay.
Does orange have to call that out? Say in what room?
Well, that was back to that slide earlier. So she could, she can ask for room, say, hey, I'd like to duck blue or duck green. And blue could say, okay, fine, or she can say, no, no.
But then we're back to, if blue doesn't change course, what does
Well,
orange?
If blue doesn't change course, blue's gonna go astern of green and not give orange room, and then blue is thrown out for violating that rule.
What?
If blue ducks, when blue ducks,
No, blue isn't going to, if I'm blue, I'm not gonna duck. I'm gonna go straight.
okay, you're not allowed to. This is what you have to do.
Have to duck to
You
left.
have to give
Because of
them
the
room.
overlap, that's the key.
Because of the overlap, you have to give them room.
Oh,
Just like a marsh.
because we're overlapped.
Yep.
They're
If you're
overlapped.
clear ahead, then you can do what you want, yes.
All right.
I have
Okay.
a follow-up question.
Okay.
What if orange says, I want room to duck, and blue says, yeah, I'm gonna duck, therefore I'm giving you room also, and then orange changes their mind and goes up instead, thus making blue take an extra leg
No, that's all,
down
I mean,
instead?
blue,
Does
if
it matter?
if orange
Is there
wants
any
to talk to
consequence?
blue, that's fine. But, if blue decides to duck, orange is still free to do whatever she wants.
So basically blue is required to give orange room to also duck,
Right, yeah.
if that's what blue is
Oh,
doing.
so it's, if you read 19.2b, giving room in obstruction, when boats are overlapped, the outside boat shall give the inside boat room between
Right.
her and the obstruction.
Yeah,
So that's what we didn't mention, that's
Right,
the
but
key
we-
point
to-
to
Yeah,
it.
so Charlie's the bottom sentence here.
It says overlap.
When overlapped,
19.2B.
blue shall give orange inside room. Okay, we're gonna move on here. Okay, now here's a common situation. You got a couple boats luffing there, and there's a gap between them. And you'd like to go in there. Can you?
Yes.
It depends.
That's a tight.
Okay, so, all right. So blue is an obstruction to both orange and green, because blue is to leeward. Same tack, and then, well, there's also same tack and clear stern. Okay. So orange and blue and orange are overlapped. Green is clear astern, but that's going to change shortly. Blue is not a continuous obstruction. We talked about that. Okay, so wait a minute. Who we got here? Okay, as I said, it depends. So when green overlaps orange and gains right away, she must initially give orange room to keep clear. Rule 15, which is acquiring right away. Orange must keep clear and give green room to pass between her and blue if she is able to do so when the overlap begins. So if there's a boat sitting right here 6 inches away and the orange can't move any, well, I mean, there's a pretty good gap there, but let's say the gap was half. Let's say orange is here and green's hull could fit in there, but with the boom hanging out, there's not enough room, then you can't go in there. I think the next slide might show that. No, it doesn't. Okay. Was that clear? clear as much? All right, prior to starting signal, we've got 3 here trying to do what we used to call as barging. Barging is not a term in the rules anymore. That went. The term barging used to be in the rules about 20 years ago or whatever. We all call it barging, but technically it's not in the rules anymore. So
Functionally in the rules?
functionally it's, yeah, functionally it is. Barging is just an English definition. Okay, so we got the boats approaching the line to start. What is happening? Okay, so we've got orange coming along on ley line for the committee boat, and blue sees that, and blue says, "Well, I want to prevent you. I want to close the door on you." So what rules apply? And who has the rights? And does the right of way have any limitations?
Blue has the
All
right.
right, so we have blue saying no room.
Yep.
So we have part 2, section C preamble, which says, section 3, rules 18, 19, and 20 do not apply at a starting mark surrounded by navigable water when approaching it to start. So if this is a situation at like 4 minutes before the start, yeah, you can box them out.
Blue can luff.
Well, blue can luff, and well, yeah.
Blue's lured anyway.
Yeah, I know,
But orange will generally
But right
come
here,
in
well,
screaming for room.
we'll go through here.
Lured.
Let's walk through this. Okay, we got rule 11, they're overlap, same tack. Windward boat shall keep clear of a leeward boat, yes. We have 16.1, which we haven't talked about yet, changing course. A right-of-way boat changes when it changes course, she shall give the keep clear boat room to keep clear. Now, if you've been sailing quite a while, it used to say room and opportunity. It only says room, it no longer says opportunity. So, blue must shut the door before orange is trapped by the race committee boat. So at this point, can orange tack? No, they would be hitting the boat. At this point, blue has to bear off and let orange go astern of the committee boat. Now, this is also the same thing at the pin end of the line, because that's a starting mark, and Rule 18 does not apply.
Is that a change from, say, 12 years ago? In terms
No,
of
this,
blue?
well, no, this has been pretty steady, I think.
So the thing that used to be called barging is allowed then?
Is allowed?
Yeah, that's what you're saying, because the
No,
lured
well,
boat has to change course to prevent
well,
collision.
okay, 3 is,
Not 3, orange.
Blue.
Blue, whatever.
we're gonna, hang on a minute.
Which three?
Okay.
Those are positions in a sequence.
Okay, there you go.
Hang on a minute. Okay, well, let me go back. Okay, so, the right way to do this is blue needs to close the door sooner. Blue needs to head up sooner. If blue, okay, if red is up here and coming in like this, and orange is maintaining course and they're on ley line, there's no way red here, my hand is going to get right away, because orange is not changing course. So then it's just windward leeward, and I'm going to have to tap. But when you're changing course, then that you have to give orange opportunity to keep clear. If they can't tap, then you have to let them go.
So the recommended thing might be, orange, you're not going to have any room. So you better start thinking about tacking, because I'm going to shut the door on you.
But you got to shut the door sooner than that.
Before you're having that conversation.
Well,
But
I'm
they're
talking
all-
about at station 1.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So is
Yes.
this because because blue is changing course? The fact that they're luffing up counts as a course change, and therefore they
Yeah.
have to give room? Because if they're sailing close all to the mark.
Well,
then-
that's what I said.
Yeah.
With this boat not changing course, and I'm coming in here and asking for room, he's not changing course, so there's no issue about giving room to keep clear. I just got to keep clear.
Right.
But when you're
Because avoiding
changing
a collision.
course, then it gets nuanced.
Got it. So it is the luffing.
Okay, so now we got rule 17 is the starting line. So rule 17 is luffing. So now we have two situations. So the situation on the right is the overlap. The leeward boat creates the overlap from a stern, and this one, yeah, this is from a stern, and this one, the overlap, the weather boat overtakes the leeward boat. So, as you know, the blue boat's going to have luffing rights here because the weather boat overtook. Here, there's no luffing rights because the overlap was created, the leeward boat caught up. Okay, so, and then we're talking about before and after the starting signal. So how is the overlap established? We just talked about that. Before the starting signal, blue has no proper course, but after the starting signal, blue may be required by Rule 17 to sail her proper course, depending on how the overlap was established. So, okay, we got Rule 12, clear head, clear stern, not overlap. Now we've got the weather boat caught up, so the leeward boat create the overlap. So the leeward boat has luffing rights. So this is at the starting signal. Rule 16, changing course, blue right away shall give orange room to keep clear. Now, this is 2 seconds after the starting signal. Blue has luffing rights. And so she can luff, and in this case, she can close the door if she wants, because she's got luffing rights and doesn't have to sail a proper course when the gun goes off. Now, this other situation, blue is a clear stern, and blue became leeward from a stern, so there's no luffing rights. Rule 15, you still always have to give opportunity for orange to keep clear. Now, here's the starting signal. At this point, you have to assume your proper course, which on a beat to windward is normally going to be close haul. So blue has to fall off to close haul, and then if there's room for orange to go through there, there's room for orange to go through there. Now, at the pin, what's your proper course? Well, after the starting signal, blue may not sail above her proper course, which is when sailing to windward, usually close haul. However, in order to pass on the correct side of the starting mark, blue's course may be to momentarily luff head to wind. So blue is allowed to luff around the mark, and yellow needs to keep clear. That may or may not work depending on whether the mark's a bot and decides to move on you, or you didn't quite calculate it right, or you ran out of momentum. But anyway, blue does have the right to go up head to wind to clear the starting mark because it's required to keep that mark to port. Yellow must keep clear of blue, but while blue is changing course, she must give yellow room to do so. So years ago we used to call it luff to kill. You got to give the boat room to keep clear. And the other thing that brings up a point, well, we can cover that either way. If you've been sailing for a long time, you used to luff, tap a boat to prove you were whatever. They changed the rules a while back, so it's supposed to be a no contact sport. And we'll talk about Rule 14 later on, which is contact. But like if it's a windward leeward, either boat can violate the rule without tapping the other boat. You're not supposed to touch boats anymore.
Wait, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
When you went back pre-start and blue, the leeward boat
You mean went over
comes up and establishes an overlap. So pre-start.
Over at the race, which one? Which slide?
I'll just go back. So blue is establishing from behind an overlap to leeward.
Yeah.
I can't quite see the picture.
Okay.
Right?
This one. This
Yeah.
one has no luffing rights.
So.
Are you talking about the one with luffing rights?
No, I'm talking about the one you're saying without luffing rights.
Okay, that's this
So
one.
blue. So it happens all the time where a boat gets underneath another boat from behind.
Right.
and they immediately want to take you up, as soon as they establish that overlap, are you saying that
Well,
they cannot luff you up at all?
No, they can luff you. There's no proper course before the start.
Right.
So they can luff you.
So as soon as they establish the overlap, they can
They
luff you
can
head
luff
to
you.
wind?
They can luff you, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And the overlap is the first inch that you clear his stern?
Yeah, or the rudder.
Or the outboard.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the hull because of, so in 2021, the rule changed so that overlap, excuse me, no,
That's for start. and
I know,
finish.
for overlap, it's still based on your spinnaker and your rudder, or your sprit.
Clear
For
stern.
finishing and starting, it used to be based on your spinnaker and your sprit and your rudder. But now, for starting and finishing, it's based on the hull. And then it may or may not be based on the rack, depending on the class of boat.
Yeah, there's
But
a,
it's based on the, Charlie, yes?
there was a world sailing decision on that says
Right.
wings are part of the hull now. I'm going to seminar
Yeah.
tomorrow, so I'm
Well,
pretty sure that was, I always
Yeah.
thought that was a hard word.
Anyway.
But yeah, clear stern and clear head are aftmost point of a boat's hull or equipment in normal position.
Right.
So, I
Yes.
didn't finish, sorry.
I'm sorry.
So, so my question was, so as soon as that leeward boat establishes the overlap, they can go head to wind pre-start.
Yes.
However, as soon as the gun goes off, they have to fall off onto their proper course because
Correct.
they established the overlap.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. That's
And one of the 65 million things you're trying to keep track of at the start is how the overlap was created.
exactly. Yeah. That's not easy.
Because you get overlap, a minute ahead of time, and then you're both luffing there, and you get up, and then they want to, it's like, well, you came from behind. Maybe. Try to remember that. Okay. We already did this one, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. We're moving on to the windward leg. Okay, so this is port starboard, rule 16.1. Yellow is starboard, breaks rule 16.1 if she changes her course with the wind shift and does not allow blue room to keep clear. So you've got this boat going here, and blue is going to cross ahead, no problem. But then there's a lefty wind shift, a righty wind shift, and blue takes, or whatever color this is, yellow takes the lift, and now they're going to run into blue. Well, if they do this early, and blue has the chance to tack, seaman-like, and get out of the way and keep clear, that's fine. But if it's at the last second, or last 20 seconds, and now blue can't cover, well, you just prevent them from keeping clear, which was to keep going and crossing on port. So when you get a wind shift and you got a port boat crossing you, you may not be able to go up on that lift if you prevent them from keeping clear. If you take the lift early enough that they have to tack, that's fine. But if they can't, if they have to keep going to escape, then you have to let them keep going. What?
Oh, we just said that's going to be really impossible to prove. If you're the port boat and you're trying to cross,
Well,
you think, oh, I got it. Oh, you can't come up.
There's no onus, but yeah, we all know starboard has the kind of the advantage there. And it also depends, I was talking this earlier tonight, conversation, but it also depends what the skipper of yellow, if you know the skippers, if it's a brand new skipper, okay, you're not going to try to do a close cross because you know they're going to panic and bail out. If you know it's a good sailor that, they're going to go as long as possible and then not wiggle until the very end and then, okay, protest. That's one thing. But then there's other people that they're bad news and you don't want to do a close cross with them because you don't want to do that. Okay, so 16.1 protects the keep clear boat from right-of-way boats, unpredictable or last-second changes of course. which would prevent port from keeping clear. Possible conclusions: port kept clear, port did not keep clear, starboard did not give room while changing course. So how, okay, so how close is too close? Okay, 2-lane road. Are you driving a race car or a tractor? What are you passing? What's coming? Okay, in sailboat racing, it depends on the distance between the boats, speed of the boats, size, maneuverability of the boats, visibility between the boats. We had, Wednesday night we had one, we were coming up to the finish, and we had a boat on a run that was going to cross. I was on starboard, and they were going to, I had right away on them, so I wasn't worried about that. There was a port boat coming here, the port boat and the running boat were coming down like this, and I was going to go between them, and I yelled at the port boat that there was a boat that he hadn't seen yet. No collisions. Okay, angle of convergence. So these are key factors needed to reach a conclusion. And as I said, this is pre-homework for the club judge seminar. So as I said, it's looking at this from a judge aspect. So those are the things to keep in mind. Okay, windward mark, not overlapped at the zone. So blue is entering the 3-boat length zone first with clear ahead. So we call that the blue owns the mark. Yellow must give blue mark room, which includes room for blue to bear away to the course needed to begin sailing the next leg. Rule 18 applies until blue either has been given mark room, passes head to wind, or leaves the zone. Oh, so this one, wait a minute. What did you do? Okay, so in this case, blue was going slow, and yellow caught up and created an overlap. But because blue has entered the zone first, clear ahead, yellow has to give room to blue. And
only mark room, or could they actually come up and do it?
Does blue have room to swing wide, come up tight?
They don't have a proper course restriction
There's no overlap.
because of how the overlap was established.
yeah, blue was clear ahead. Blue owns the mark. Yeah, so she could do proper course, yes. Yes.
So she could take yellow up.
Well, she can't left yellow, but she can, if she wanted to leave 10 feet to the mark so she can do a jibe step, for example, she can do that.
Sure.
But
so she could
we're going to
sail
talk
close
about that
haul.
in a minute. Well, in fact, she did.
Even if she could
What?
bear away, she could still sail close haul if she wanted.
If she was overstood, for instance.
Only if that's a proper course.
No, there's no proper course restriction because blue had the right of way. The overlap was established by the windward boat coming from the stern, so there's no proper course restriction.
Yeah,
17
if-
doesn't
on
apply.
blue.
Right. If blue.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So, for example, position 2, if blue wanted to luff for a long time, that would be fine.
Oh,
How
Blue
far
does-
does the term blue owns the mark go?
blue
Till
owns
the
the
mark
mark
is
so
no
they can
longer
go
a
off to
factor.
Edmonds.
Till the mark is no longer a factor in course. When you're no longer altering your course to mess around. Now, when is the stern of you, basically?
Nobody should know that.
Okay, so we have, now we have a situation where the boat's tacking. So Rule 18.3 is when the tacking when approaching the mark to be left to port. So we have the 2 situations here. And so blue and orange, okay, blue and orange pass head to wind from port to starboard in the zone and are then fetching the mark. Yellow and green are on starboard and have been sailing on starboard since entering the zone, or since the whole time in the zone, before the zone. blue and orange break Rule 18.3 by causing yellow and green to sail above close haul to avoid contact. So when they created this rule, first of all, the 2 boat length zone became 3 boat length zone a while back. But the whole emphasis was, we know everybody's going around the weather mark. Let's create this zone so that ideally you're coming in on 4 boat lengths from 4 or 5 boat lengths from the weather mark and completing your tack before you enter the 3 boat length zone, so that we don't have boats crashing into each other. So tacking when approaching a mark before. Okay, so here we've got orange. So a reminder, you are tacking, you commence your tack, you're luffing until you're head to wind. When you go beyond head to wind, you've tacked, and you complete your tack when you've borne off to close hull, which is normally 45 degrees, regardless of how your sails are. So we see that orange is starting their tack within the zone. There's no way they're completing it before the 3 boat length zone. So we got Rule 10. Then we have while tacking, orange passes head to wind and becomes subject to Rule 13 until she's close hull. Then we have Rule 11, same tack overlap. Orange is the lured boat. And then we have position 4, orange luffs above close hull to clear the mark. As a result of her luff, green sailed above close hull, so then orange breaks Rule 18.3. So there is and that's pretty clear. And they did change the rule a little bit. It used to say if the boat, well, anyway, but there's a little nuance to this. Let's say 3 is a little bit overstanding, so they're above ley line just a little bit, and they come in, so they're overstanding a little bit, so they come in, but they wait until the last second and then head up above close hull. Well, they did go above close hull, but if they had altered course back here instead of waiting here, they would not have had to go above close hull. So if you're orange in that situation, do pay attention to when they had to luff, and if they luffed above close hull or not, and if you think they had to or they just did because they wanted to, because you might win that protest if they could have altered course sooner. Okay, so this is one of the speed and smarts. I got permission from Dave Dellenbach to use some of his speed and smarts. We'll talk about his publication and his webinars later. He does a really good job. Dave Dellenbach, he's won. So I have a Thistle sailboat. He's won Thistle National Champions about 7 times. He's won the America's Cup. He's on the rules committee and writes Speed and Smarts. He's been publishing Speed and Smarts for since about 1990 something. Anyway, he knows what he's talking about. So tacking inside the zone. So the lesson learned from Rule 18.3 is that if you want to approach the windward mark from port, try to do it 4 or 5 boat lengths away. This way, when you tack, you won't be worried about 18.3. And the same thing happens at the finish line. And this is kind of tricky, and we'll cover this again later, but it's kind of tricky because red has tacked inside the zone, and now they're going to luff up. But they don't have, they can luff, but they can't force green to luff. If green luffs above close hull, then red is out. And so then red would have to exonerate themselves by taking penalty charge. So that's what that says.
Do you have to tackle?
No, you can get into it's better not to tap them, because what you think is a love tap could be thousands of dollars of damage. Let's say if it's a woody or whatever, what you think might be, anyway. So tacking when approaching a mark to be left to port. Okay, so this is showing where blue is going to cross starboard. That works. Okay, that's what they did. Yellow enters the zone on starboard. So 18.3 applies, 18.2 does not. Yellow becomes over, and then because of the speed, blue tacked, slowed down, yellow creates an overlap. Now at this point, blue has to give rights to yellow to round the mark. So must give mark room to yellow. Okay.
Wouldn't they anyway because they're lured?
Well, yellow is right away at that point, but it's part of 18.3 that because
if they had entered on starboard, then it wouldn't have to. It was because they tapped in the zone, right?
well, blue entered first, but because they tacked, they don't own the mark. So yeah, it's anyway. Yeah. Okay, 14. We've been talking about these love taps. So section B, general limitations. A boat shall avoid contact with another boat if reasonably possible. Period. End of sentence. However, a right-of-way boat or one sailing within the room or marked room to which she is entitled need not act to avoid contact until it is clear that the other boat is not keeping clear or giving room or marked room. So what this says is, you know, we had that, well, not affecting their course. So we had the yellow port starboard, with the yellow port starboard where they got the lift, for example. Well, anyway, actually, we'll get to some contact. But anyway, if you've got a situation where contact's about ready to happen, you want to avoid it. If it's a port starboard, yeah, you're going to wait a while because port's crossing. It's going to be close, but they may make it, and you can wait as long as you want. But if you know, depending on the seas and the waves and all that, you may bail out. The other thing is, you have a situation where you think they're going to clear you, but then they don't. If you can avoid it, you need to avoid it. But there are situations where you didn't have a chance to react, and then you'll be okay. You may still be repairing boats, but so on this one, so these are general limitations. So we talked about 14, 15. Acquired right-of-way. When a boat acquires right-of-way, she shall initially give the other boat room to keep clear, unless she acquires right-of-way because of the other boat's action. So for example, if the other boat tacks and gives you right-of-way, then you immediately have right-of-way. 16, we talked about this before. 16.1, when a right-of-way boat changes course, she shall give the other boat room to keep clear. And then in addition, on a beat to windward, now this is kind of that port example, port tack, starboard tack we talked about earlier. In addition, on a beat to windward, when a port tack boat is keeping clear by sailing to pass to leeward of a starboard boat, the starboard boat shall not bear away if, as a result, the port tack boat must change course immediately to continue keeping clear. So if you're on starboard and you have a port boat that's ducking you, and then you decide to tack, and she needs to immediately alter her course to stay clear, the starboard boat tacking broke Rule 16.2. And then 17, we kind of talked about this before, on the same tack, proper course. If a boat clear astern becomes overlapped within 2 of her hull lengths to leeward of a boat on the same tack, she shall not sail above her proper course while they remain on the same tack and overlap within that distance, unless in doing so she would promptly sail astern. So you're still allowed to tack. Okay. Starboard, no. So this is a starboard mark rounding, windward mark. We don't do these very often, but if you do, the rules change. So blue and yellow are approaching a windward mark to be rounded to starboard. Match racing uses starboard marks. Blue on port is fetching the mark. Yellow on starboard tacks from starboard to port, clear ahead of blue, and gets down to close haul just prior to position 3. Blue luffs to avoid hitting yellow's stern. Who has right of way and what rules apply? Okay, well I already told you they're different. So at position 1, what tack is yellow on?
Starboard.
Starboard.
Okay, and so that's port starboard, right? Okay. Okay. At position 2,
Yellow, clear
it's
ahead.
still a position 2.
Tacking. Blue.
Okay, blue has right of way because yellow is tacking and acquiring right of way. At position 3, yellow's clear ahead, so they have right of way. And well, we still have acquiring right of way. And then rule 18.3, tacking in the zone, does not apply on a starboard rounding. So starboard is allowed to tack around the mark if it's a starboard rounding, regardless of where the zone is. And here again, now this is a situation where starboard is crossing first and then tacking, and blue's going to create an overlap between the mark and yellow. Who has the right of way? At position 3, it's port starboard, so yellow has right of way on starboard, but there's changing course. At position 4, tacking, rule 15 acquiring right of way. At position 5, blue is leeward, and so we've got 18.2 AF mark room. So tacking in the zone does not apply. So yeah, anyway, I'm pretty sure yellow has to give blue right there. Okay, room to tack. This is speed and smarts again. So on the left-hand side, we've got mark room does not include room to tack unless tacking is necessary to sail the course. So red is overlapped to blue. They're both on the same tack. So when a boat has mark room, does this entitle her room to tack? The answer is yes, only if she meets the following conditions. She's overlapped to weather, she's red, and she's inside, and she would be fetching the mark after her tack, and tacking is necessary to sail the course. So in this left-hand case, red has rights to tack to go around the mark. On the right, and then in the photo, somebody asked this, anyway, mark room no longer includes room for a boat to jibe at the weather mark unless jibing is necessary to sail the course. So if you go around the weather mark and you could just bear off and be on a proper course, then you don't have the rights to jibe. If the wind is shifted and it's cocked and you want to jibe because you're going straight for the mark, then you do have rights to jibe. And then on the right-hand side, but at a leeward mark rounding, tacking isn't necessary to sail the next leg unless red can fetch the next mark on starboard tack. Therefore, mark room for red does not usually include space to tack. So blue has to give red the ability to stay on port tack. Okay. Okay, touching a mark. So blue hit the mark, and they're circling. We all know, okay, so yeah, you can't touch the mark. We'll talk about what constitutes a mark in a minute. So Rule 44.1, blue may take a one-turn penalty for breaking Rule 31. Rule 44.2, after getting well clear of other boats as soon as possible, a boat takes a penalty by making the required number of turns in the same direction, each turn including one tack and one jibe. So you'll notice that in this case that number 1 is pointed at 10 o'clock, and they get around the mark and they decide to tack and jibe, and now they're in position 9, they're off at 7 o'clock. They didn't do 360 degrees. The rule requires one tack and one jibe. You don't have to do a full circle. Originally, when the 720 rule came in and a 360 for the mark, you did have to do the 360. But they changed it a while back to just one tack and one jibe in the same direction. Or if it's a penalty where you're doing two circles, you call them circles. Well, 2 circles, but you can really do 1 3/4 circle.
2 tacks and 2 jibes.
2 tacks and 2 jibes.
How,
Yeah, so 9 is,
how proximate to one another do the tack and the jibe need to be?
well, you're supposed to try to do it all at once. And so you're supposed to get well clear. And there's actually, I think I mentioned a good way to learn the nuances of the rules is to look at the cases and the appeals. One of the last appeals was talking about, I'll see if I can bring that up, was talking about where the boat got clear, started to do a penalty, and then, so you had a boat that's going to do a circle up here, and you've got a boat coming up here on port tack, and you had a boat like right here in the middle of its first circle, and this boat tacks to starboard, and then this boat has to delay to keep out of the way, and then continue on. That's okay. You can delay the second circle if you have to keep clear of somebody. And in that case, you didn't know he was going to tap, so you were keeping clear when he was on his original port tap. Now, if it was up on the lay line and he might tack for the lay line, then that's probably not a good spot to pick to do your circles. So, yes?
So it's supposed to be, it's a foul though, 720. Are they supposed to do it pretty much immediately after they make the foul, or?
Well, it's right here. Read 44.2. After getting well clear of other boats as soon as possible, a boat takes a penalty by making the required number of turns in the same direction, each turn including one tack and one jibe. 44.2 covers 1 circle for a mark and 2 circles for fouling a boat elsewhere on the course.
All right, so the guy did it just before the finish line after he fouled me on the first leg. Technically didn't follow the rules.
It used to be that, people, you'd foul somebody at the weather mark and you'd do it just before the leeward mark. No, you need to do it pretty quick. We had a discussion the other day on, you've got an offset mark. So you hit the mark and then you got the offset mark 50 yards away. Do you have to do your circles before the offset mark, or can you wait until after the offset mark and then get well clear? And some sailing instructions actually specify you can't do it between the two, the weather mark and the offset. Go beyond the offset and then get clear. So if you're in that situation, you got to take a look at how you're going to get clear. You know there's a bunch of boats coming, and also when you finish up, you might be below you may be going back on port tack to tack back up the offset. So in a lot of cases, it may make sense to go beyond the offset and then get clear, but just figure out how you're going to justify that if somebody protests you for not doing the circles correctly.
But that's different than rounding the offset. That's getting clear, right? Because that's the
I'm talking about
overarching, right?
I'm talking about you had a foul at the weather line,
right?
And then you're debating whether to do your circles before the offset or after the offset. That's what I was talking about. You still have to round the offset, yeah.
Sure, but if you round the offset before you do your turns, then you're continuing to race before you take your penalty. Versus just getting out of the way.
Well, if you can justify it that that's you were getting clear as soon as possible and that's what's your method to get clear, then you might be okay. I mean, the adage, there's a famous, I mean, everybody knows the adage that if you go into the protest room, even if you think you got a clear-cut case, it's 50-50. Well, the reason for that is you've got your viewpoint, and I've got my viewpoint, and we're either 90 degrees different or whatever, or there's a boat that you didn't see that was involved that you didn't know about. So, yeah, I mean, I do recommend staying out of the room. Try to settle on the water. That's why we have the penalty, so you can do circles. It used to be, if you fouled somebody, you were out. You were going home. That was it. And with the 2 penalty turn, you can exonerate a lot of stuff on the water. Also, by the way, if you foul somebody and you want to do circles, you can still protest that. Circles don't admit you're wrong. You can do the circles and still protest that. So you can look at where you are and say, well, I can do 2 circles and I'm going to lose 2 votes and I'll take that. But I still want to protest Wayne because he's a bum. And then you can do that. And you have the protest, and I may get thrown out, but you can't get thrown out. They can say, well, you're wrong, but since you exonerated yourself, you're standing stays. So that's an option. That's also a tactical option available. Okay, did we do this one? We did this one. Oh yeah, and then well, 21.2, blue must keep clear of other boats while doing their turn. We talked about that. Okay, somebody asked about obstructions a while back. So 19.2 is obstructions, and excuse me, is continuing obstruction. So we have a shore here, and we have yellow wants to go inside of blue, and blue is clear ahead. So, and then this other situation we have, they're going to become overlapped and fall out here. So anyway, okay, so may yellow go between blue and the shore? So what do you think? Is this a yes or a no?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a little.
Okay, all right. So yes, as long as there's room for her to pass between them at the moment the overlap begins, position 1. So the overlap begins, the shore's got widens up to that little bay, inlet, whatever. So that's cool. And then over here, now is yellow entitled to room? Yeah, I'd say she still is. If yellow is overlapped in position 2 and needs more room to pass point of land or shoal in position 3, blue must bear off to provide that room. So I would have drawn the diagram a little bit differently, but what they're trying to show is that there was plenty of room here. Land was created, the yellow had room, and then we got land coming down to here, and so then yellow has to bear off, and blue has to give room for yellow because of my hand standing there. Does that make sense? Okay, now we've got giving room and a continuing. We've got both blue and yellow on starboard tack. So who's got right away here? And what rule are we talking about?
Yellow overtaking.
Okay, we got rule 12 because they're clear ahead, clear astern. Okay, blue's clear astern and required to keep clear yellow. Blue wants to go between yellow and the shore, but at the moment blue overlaps yellow. If there is not room for her to pass between yellow and obstruction, she's not entitled to room. Okay, in this case, blue with her boom out is too wide to pass between the shore and yellow, so she better not go in there. Would the situation be different if yellow's on port tack?
Yep.
Yes, then it's port starboard. So, I thought they showed it, okay. So now we have Rule 17 downwind, proper course. So as I said, in the starting situation where you're being luffed by the guy, remember how the overlap was created. Same thing, one boat catches up to another boat on the run, and that was, 5 minutes ago, and now somebody's luffing, okay? Well, who caught up to who? Did the leeward boat become overlapped from clear astern within 2 of her lengths of the weather boat? What is proper course? The course a boat would choose in order to sail the course and finish as soon as possible in the absence of the other boats referred to in the rule. So if there's 2 boats that there are 2 boats that are the problem boats, I mean you and the other boats that are mixing it up, and there's a boat clear ahead that you're catching up to, and you would alter course to go around that boat ahead of you, well, you can do that. Because they're not referred to in the, like your windward leeward, because they're clear ahead. Anyway, that probably wasn't as clear as I could have said it. A boat has no proper course before the start signal, we said that. Different boats may have different proper courses at the same time. Obviously, a symmetrical spinnaker and an asym spinnaker have different proper courses downwind. Also, if it's one design and you have waves, you may be playing the waves, so you're going up and down a little bit on your altering your course. You get a puff, you bear off, you get a lull, you head up a little, that's all your proper course. Because you would be doing that in the absence of the boat right next to you that's trying to not hit. I'm exaggerating. Okay, so downwind. So in this, you can see what happens in this situation. Blue becomes overlapped from clear astern, and then luffs above her above her proper course. So the intent was to make it difficult for yellow to stay ahead, but because blue came from astern to create the overlap, there's no luffing rights, so she can only sail her proper course. So she can't luff like this. In the absence of yellow, blue would not luff. Why would I luff? Blue broke Rule 17. Okay, now we've got 4 other boats up here. Now blue's heading up to go to weather these guys that are slow because I'm bringing the wind down with me. Now what's the situation? Blue became overlapped from clear astern again, but then sailed high to go above the slower gray boat. So then that's legal. In the absence of yellow, blue would still sail high to go to weather of the gray boats. Because she would do this, okay, I already said that. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Am I going too fast? Too slow? Okay. So now we've got downwind leg. Yellow is changing her course. So yellow establishes an overlap to leeward while more than 2 boat lengths, hull lengths away from blue. Okay, so when you create an overlap like this, you're looking at whether you're within 2 boat lengths or not. Okay, yellow is not restricted by Rule 17 and may sail up to head to wind. So, excuse me. Yeah, so the key word here was yellow and blue are more than, this is supposed to be more than 2 hulls away. So then, when in position 2, this is when the overlap's created, they're within 2 hull lengths. So, then yellow does have luffing rights.
The distance of 2 hull lengths, is that between the hulls or between equipment in normal position? Like you have to measure from that boom that's out when they're running downwind? I think it's, yeah, I think it's.
Yeah, the equipment. Yeah. Okay, so here's another downwind leg. So that's what it looks like. Position 1, before reaching position 1, blue had established an overlap to windward of yellow with no Rule 17 restriction. So yellow has luffing rights. And then blue luffs hard, breaking the overlap at position 2. Now, if you go to a protest, this is going to be fun trying to prove that you actually broke this. But blues maintaining they broke it, and they're probably yelling at yellow that I broke the overlap, and yellow's looking at him going, no, or yes. Anyway, blue then bears away, causing the overlap to begin again. Yellow does not have to give blue room to keep clear under Rule 15, since she gained leeward right away as a result of blue's actions. Yellow must promptly bear away to sail her proper course because she obtained her overlap from clear stern of blue. So, clear as mud, right?
Wait, yellow does not have to give blue room to keep clear. But she has to sail her proper course.
So, yeah, so blue, in position 2, there was no overlap. So then in position 3, yellow created the overlap from clear astern. So then she has to resume her proper course.
Or blue
But
bore
it
away and
says
recreated the.
Yellow does not have to give blue room to keep clear since she gained leeward right away as a result of blue's
She doesn't
action.
have, right, she instantly gains right away. Because blue did the, blue changed course.
Okay.
So she gains right away. There's no, 15 doesn't apply. Just blue, because yellow obtained right away because blue was altering, blue's changed of course.
And she still got it from
Right. But
behind,
once
so
blue
she
gets
still
it,
broke course.
she has to promptly bear away to her proper course. Okay, so now we got this situation. Position 1, there's no overlap. Yellow becomes overlapped to leeward of blue from clear stern within 2 boat lengths. Now, yellow jives. Yellow jives to port, so now yellow and port are still overlapped because they're both greater than 90 degrees off the wind. However, Rule 17 applies only when they're on the same tack. So at position 3, it's just port starboard. Now, yellow jives back to starboard and has luffing rights, and then yellow may luff because at position 4 she did not become overlapped with blue clear stern, so she's not restricted on 15. However, Rule 15 requires yellow to initially give blue to keep clear because it was yellow's actions that created the new overlap. Then as she changes course, yellow must give blue additional room to keep clear under Rule 16.1. And here again, you know, you can go up and come down and go up and come down and slowly close it, but you don't want to tap them. You also don't want to blue doesn't want to get so close that blue doesn't want to get so close that yellow cannot alter course without touching, because then it's a blue violated Rule 11. But depending how fast yellow luffs, yellow can break rule. Like if yellow kept luffing blue here, probably yellow is going to break 16.1. So they're lured both, but they're the ones getting DSQ'd.
Is this a tactic that when you're in position 1 and then in 2 you cannot luff, but you've jibed in 3 and then you've jibed back, so now in 4 you can luff?
Yes, it's a good match racing or team racing tactic.
Okay.
If you have to beat blue and you don't care about losing some boats right behind you, or you got a big lead or whatever, yeah, so you can lose other boats, yeah.
2 tacks and you can get your right to luff.
Yes, correct.
2 jibes.
Yeah, two jibes, yeah.
Well,
Okay, so
jibes.
yeah, so now we have blue's going to be doing a tack or jibe here. So between positions 1 and 2, blue passes clear stern of yellow. Blue's on port, yellow starboard. In position 3, blue bears away to create an overlap. Because blue and yellow are both sailing greater than 90 off the wind, even though they're on opposite tacks, they're still overlapped. In position 4, blue jibes. As soon as the broom crosses center line, blue and yellow are immediately overlapped on the same tack. And because blue established her overlap from clear astern when the boats were on opposite tack, Rule 17 does not apply, and blue can luff to head to wind, but must give yellow room to keep clear under 15 and 16.1.
So
like we
same
talked about.
deal.
Same deal, right? Okay, we finally got to the leeward mark. Okay, so now this one, normally you're talking about 2 boat lengths, but this is the one time when you're not talking about 2 boat lengths, when it's mark room. And, you know, I would say blue is overlapped with the whole world. So blue is overlapped with yellow. Blue is entering the circle first, but yellow's on the inside. So yellow has right of way in this situation. Excuse me.
Blue. Yellow has mark.
Right, yellow has mark room. Blue is still blue's on port. Yellow's on starboard. Anyway, mark room doesn't change, but yellow's inside. Yellow has an inside overlap when blue enters the zone. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, giving mark room. So you have 3 boats here, all on port tack. Blue's entering the zone first. They're overlapped. Green is inside. She does not have right of way, Rule 11. She's windward boat. Blue and yellow must give green space to sail to the mark when her proper course is to sail close to it, and then space to round the mark as necessary. So, one other interesting fact about overlaps is, so blue and green are overlapped because of yellow, but only because yellow is between them. So we've got blue and yellow are overlapped, and green and yellow are overlapped, and yellow being between green and blue, so blue and green are overlapped. If yellow were over here and still overlap with blue, and still somehow within 2 boat lengths, but she has to be in the middle generally for blue to be overlapped with yellow.
Because she's constrained.
If yellow, well, if they were all jammed in together so they're within 2 boat lengths, but yellow's over here and green is here, she's not between them, so then it doesn't count. I missed that on one of the tests. Yeah, I did. Okay, so we covered this one. Okay. Okay, now we've got giving root mark room clear ahead. Okay, green, they're overlapped. Now green is the leeward boat. So green is the right of way boat. She's inside leeward. She has right of way. Because yellow is between green and blue. They're both there, so they're all overlapped with blue. Okay, so green and yellow must jibe when their proper course is to do so if the mark is not a gate. Somebody asked about gates, so this is part of where we're talking about gates. Okay. Okay, leeward mark again. So yellow's on starboard is right away. Blue's entering the circle first and is clear ahead, but we do have port and starboard. So when blue enters the zone, she is clear ahead of yellow. Rule 18.2b requires yellow to give blue mark room. Okay. Now we got to jibe at this mark. So we've got under Rule 18.4, when an inside overlap right-of-way boat must jibe at a mark to sail her proper course. Until she jibes, she shall sail no farther from the mark than needed to sail that course. So yellow's inside overlapped. She has to jibe right around the mark. She can't lollygag Okay, just said that. Yellow may not luff away from the mark prior to jibing if that takes her farther from the mark than her proper course. So, if this is a wing mark, then jibing right at the mark might be yellow's proper course. If this is a leeward mark, then making a tactical rounding, swing wide, cut close, might be yellow's proper course. So in position 2, yellow could luff a little bit and to take it wide and tight. But you can't overdo that. We'll cover that in a minute. If this was a gate mark, Rule 18.4 would not apply. So if there's a gate, yellow can go either way. She could round this mark, she can jibe around this mark, or she can go to the other gate. And we'll see that in a minute. So this is speed and smarts again. So the main part of this is look at the purple and the green and the proper course. So when the first boat enters the zone, Rule 18.4 applies here because the inside boat is overlapped and has right of way and must jibe at the mark to sail her proper course. Since L is overlapped to leeward and inside, W must give her mark room and must keep clear of L because of Rule 11. While 18.4 applies, L must sail no farther from the mark than she needs to sail her proper course. She can sail anywhere in the green zone, but not in the purple. L jibes to sail her proper course. Rule 18.4 then no longer applies to L. Once L jibes, she becomes an inside overlap boat without right of way. Now W must give L only enough room to make a seaman-like rounding. And then we've got L is the inside overlap, she has right of way, must jibe, we already said that. And then the bottom text, once W has given L mark room, i.e. L is past the mark and no longer needs room to sail around it. In essence, she does, it's in her rearview mirror, she doesn't care about it. L will not be exonerated by Rule 43 for breaking any right-of-way rules. Therefore L must keep clear of W. Well, they continue to have the W and L, but it's actually blue is now leeward. Is that all clear as mud? Okay.
So now W could take L up
No. Well,
if they felt like it.
well, yes, L, blue has luffing rights, yeah. Well, depending how
they acquired
depending
overlap.
how it was
Right,
created,
yes.
yeah.
Although it would have been created when they jibed.
Yeah, right.
So it would have been created
It's
not
how
from the
it's
stern.
created, yeah. But anyway, L, the weather boat has to keep clear of the leeward boat. Just Rule 11. Okay, now here's the gate mark. So we've got green is on starboard, O is on port. So we've got port starboard, but green is starboard. So green can decide whether she wants to jibe around the what I would call the left-hand mark, or she can go around the left-hand gate if she wants. So that's what all this is saying. So if you're the red boat, you better be talking to green to figure out what's going on. Because you're thinking you're going to be jiving around, and they decided to go left. It's like, uh-oh. So anyway, 18.4 when inside, we already covered all that, does not apply to gate mark. So it's different. Okay, and then we've got overlap from astern. If an inside boat caught her overlap from clear astern, as long as the boats are overlapped on the same tack, Rule 17, proper course, says she cannot sail higher than her proper course. So if her proper course is to jibe at a gate mark, she must do so. Green got her overlap from clear astern, So she cannot sail above her proper course. So green is going faster, but she was astern here, and now she's overlapped, but she has to she can only sail her proper course. Okay, now we have the leeward mark, we got the pinwheel. We don't want to be boat number red, colored red. And blue is not so cool either. You really want to slow down and let those guys go past so you can be, you know, you want to be first or second boat. If it's a four, anyway, you all know that. Okay, the position of green, yellow, it's obvious. The red is outside the zone. At position 2, gray is overlapped with red. Gray and red continue to be overlapped when the first of them reaches the zone. Red must give gray mark room. And we all hate that because they're way behind us, and now we lost some boats. Okay, speed and smarts again. When you are unable to give mark room. Okay, so now we got the pinwheel. Red gets an overlap outside the zone and says, hey, L, I have an inside overlap before the zone. Please give me mark room. Hey, X, I agree you will have an inside overlap when we get to the zone, so I'll try to. But with the current and these other boats, I'm not sure if I'll be able to give you room. Sorry. If a boat obtains an inside overlap from clear astern or by tacking to windward of the other boat, and from the time the overlap began, the outside boat has been unable to give mark room, she is not required to give it. So it's correct for X to start hailing here and letting blue and teal and purple know that, you know, I'd like to have some room. But it may not happen. Clear head, clear stern at the zone. Rule 18 does not change the basic right-of-way between boats. In both cases shown above, the boats are on opposite tacks. So the boat on starboard tack has the right-of-way, and the boat on port tack must keep clear. And that's true until the zone. However, the giveaway boat, P, is in a strong position if she enters the zone clear ahead. Before Rule 18 applies, P must get out of the way of starboard and allow starboard to sail her course. But once P enters the zone, she's now got mark room and will be exonerated if she breaks Rule 10, port starboard, while sailing within mark room to which she's entitled. And then we've got, was the overlap created or broken in time? So the rule is, if there is reasonable doubt that a boat obtained or broke an overlap in time, it shall be presumed that she did not. So if you've been overlapped with a boat for 5 minutes, and at the last second say, I broke the overlap, probably not. And the same thing for you haven't been overlapped and they finally get an overlap, say, you were overlapped. It's right, probably not. Now we all know that the 3 boat length zone is painted on the water, and it's very easy to see where it is. Especially when there's different length boats involved.
It's the nearer of the boats, is that correct, for different length
It's
boats?
the nearer of the boats, yes.
So that
no,
TP52
well,
overtaking
no,
it off
yes, hang on a minute. Let me read that.
It's the first engine from.
Just a second.
first entry, which would be the nearer.
Well, okay, it's when the first boat hits the zone. So, if you got a little short boat, it's going to be a long time before they get to the zone. If you got an El Toro, they're going to be at the zone 18 feet from the mark. If you got a TP52, it's going to be 152 feet. So you tell me who hits the zone first. If the TP is 100 feet away and the El Toro is 25 feet away, the TP did it first. If they're 200 feet ahead, you know, you have to pitch it. Yeah. Anyway, so in that case, just give them room. What's that?
I said who?
Okay, when was the overlap broken or established? The 5th part of Rule 18.2 places an onus on any boat that claims to gain or break an overlap as they approach the mark. This rule offers valuable guidance for boats and the protest committees. Before Rule 18.2e can apply, there must be reasonable doubt about whether an overlap was obtained or broken in time before they reach the zone. When there is reasonable doubt, the rule says you should presume that the overlap was not obtained or broken. So whatever the situation was, that's what it was unless you can prove that it changed. To apply this rule, it's very helpful to know the relationship of the boats before they reach the zone. The diagrams below describe the onus in each case. So on the left-hand one, we've got, hey, I just got an overlap, but there's reasonable doubt because whatever. And then the other one is I broke the overlap. It's like whatever. It's all the same. So now the center diagram, they're overlapped like 6 boat lengths away. So we're going to presume that they have an overlap. And the same in the right-hand one, they were not overlapped 6 boat lengths away. We're going to assume that there was no overlap. Exoneration while taking marked room. So Rule 43, this is the one that all the exoneration rules are combined into Rule 43 now. So exoneration while taking marked room. While boats inside the zone approach and round a mark, an outside or clear astern boat must give marked room to an inside or clear head boat. Marked room includes room to leave a mark on the required side, sail to the mark in a seaman-like way, and round the mark as necessary to sail the course. So we see on the left-hand diagram that W is sailing to the mark. And so W is sailing within the marked room to which she's entitled. So that's all cool. That's what she's supposed to do. Okay, now in the right-hand diagram, W is trying to do a wide and tight. But she doesn't have, she's windward boat. So she doesn't have, she has to stay out of L's leeward boat's way. And so by doing that course, she broke Rule 11, and she will not be exonerated because she was not sailing within her marked room. So she broke Rule 11 at position 2. She was not sailing within the marked room to which she was entitled, shown by the red arrow. She was aiming too wide. Okay, shut the door. We had a protest Sunday, CYC Tacoma, that had this type of situation. Can you shut the door to leeward mark? So, oh, that's sorry. No wonder I can't read it. It's the next slide. Okay, so we have this situation that purple had trouble with their spinnaker and kind of took it a little too wide. Blue thought, hey, I can sneak in there. So what's going on here? So purple, okay, situation 1. Blue has to give marked room to purple. At position 2, blue becomes overlapped inside of purple. So in addition to providing marked room, blue also has to give purple room to sail her proper course while they are overlapped. Purple luffs sharply to sail her proper course at the mark, and blue is not able to keep clear. Blue breaks Rule 11 and also Rule 18 because she did not give purple marked room and room to sail her proper course. Purple breaks Rule 16, changing course, but she's exonerated by Rule 43.1b because she was sailing within the marked room she was entitled by Rule 18.2b, and within her proper course is permitted. Okay, so I might have described it wrong. So in this case, purple is okay to do a proper course, and blue was not allowed to go in. Does that make sense? Okay, now on the other side, wait a minute.
So, Wayne, so the gist of that is because there was no overlap when they reached the zone, is that correct? So that's why blue doesn't
There was
have
no
any rank?
overlap. There was no overlap, so purple owns the mark, and she can sail her proper course because she's not required to just have marked room. And so she takes it wide and tight, and that is legal. I did think she was taking it too wide, but she was not taking it too wide. Now this next one is the opposite situation. This is where she had trouble with her spinning. So situation 2, this begins the same as 1. Blue has to give purple mark room, and then blue gets an inside overlap. This time purple sails past the mark and luffs hard to keep blue from rounding inside. At position 3, purple luffs well above her proper course, and blue is unable to keep clear. Purple breaks 16.1, but she's not exonerated this time because she's not sailing her proper course. And she's not sailing within the room or mark room to which she's entitled. Blue breaks Rule 11, but she's exonerated because she was compelled to break Rule 11 or 31, touching a mark, when purple broke 16. So you see the difference there? The first one was within proper course, and this one is not proper course. So it can be really subtle, and as I said, we had a situation similar to this last weekend in interesting protest. Okay, finish on a run. This is actually, it's either an appeal or a case. Is R entitled to buoy room? So we have a finish. Since both boats are about to pass the finish line on the same required side, they're subject to Rule 18. It's a leeward finish. So G must give red mark room at the mark. If there was no mark nearby, G, of course, holds right away on starboard tack, and R would have to keep clear. But in this situation, however, R is entitled to mark room. If she breaks Rule 10 while sailing within mark room to which she is entitled, R will be exonerated by Rule 43. So in this case, you got to give red room to finish. And of course, red has a boom out. A boom has a boom out there trying to hit the mark or the finish boat. Excuse me. So give them more room than you think you need to. Okay, now we have a weather finish. Okay, blue wants room. The preamble of section C, part 2, turns Rule 18 off at a starting mark, not at a finish mark. So 18.1 turns Rule 18 off at a windward mark, including a windward finish mark when the two boats are coming into the mark on opposite tacks. But we're not opposite tacks. This requires yellow outside to give blue inside mark room. Okay, how you finish. So a boat finishes when after starting and part of her hull crosses the finish line from the course side. However, she is not finished if after crossing the finish line she takes a penalty, like 2 circles or 1 circle, corrects an error in sailing the course made at the line, or which, like, you're supposed to avoid the finish line, but you went through it, or continues to sail the course, as in it's a 2-lap course and you have to go through the finish line at the end of lap 1. And then, so in position blue 2, she's finished but still racing. Yellow 2, she's finished but still racing. Yellow 4, she's no longer racing because she's cleared the line and the marks. And then a boat finishes when she breaks the plane of the finish line, position 2 for both boats. After finishing, she must clear the finish line and marks. She's still racing until she does so, but she could clear the mark by any way she wants. She does not have to go to weather of the finish mark or the committee boat.
So I have something that I see all the time, and that's boats in position 3 in really light air, PHRF boats, turn on their motor. Is that allowed? In position 3, can they turn on their motor?
I would say no.
Well, blue may, but yellow may not.
Well, blue which?
Yeah, yellow's
blue
the
2 or
Blue
blue
3, all 3,
Oh,
both
blue
in
3.
position 3.
Yeah, blue 3 is fine.
3
She's
can
cleared
turn
the
on her,
line.
blue can turn on her motor in position 3, but yellow cannot.
3 cannot. 3 yellow cannot. 4 yellow can.
Yes. So
Yeah, no, I know about
I
boats.
see this all the time,
Yeah, I've seen boats that
particularly in
Yeah.
really light air
oh
with
yeah,
current.
we're finally finished. Let's get out of the way of those boats. Yeah, no. Okay, a boat clears the finish line and the marks when no part of her hull, crew, or equipment is on the line, and no mark is influencing her choice of course. Correct, Charlotte? You are clear of the marks. This says the marks are, no, you're totally ignoring the marks now.
Right, which is interesting. So if that were a longer finish line, yellow 4 would still be racing because her course is still influenced by the mark.
Yes, she's still racing.
You
Well, okay, we're saying she left the mark in her rearview mirror.
Well, no, I'm
and
saying,
she's not being pushed into it.
but
If position 4, she's still worried about current pushing her into the mark, she's still racing.
yeah. So like if that orange mark was instead of under the N of line, but over underneath the at, yellow 4 would still be racing.
Oh, if the mark was over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still racing because it's still affecting her course. Right. Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of boats.
Huh.
Same thing.
Oh, and that's a case. That's not in the rules.
Yeah, case 127. So case means world sailing case.
Right.
And that is definitive, that is authoritative. So what the rule book says on that point is, okay, interpretations. World Sailing publishes the following authoritative interpretations of the racing rules. The case book, interpretations of the racing rules, and then the call book for team racing, match racing, etc. There's also interpretation of Rule 42, propulsion, and interpretations of the regulations, and for those regulations that are rules. U.S. sailing, we don't care about that. Anyway, yeah, so the cases are basically rules, and the appeals are guidelines. Okay, so how would you decide this? So we'll talk about it in a minute, but Dave Perry has a quiz book with 100 quizzes in it, or you buy the current version. If you remember U.S. sailing, you buy the current version for $11.50. And as I said, most of the rules won't change in 2025. A lot of the numbers will change, but the on-the-water stuff doesn't change very much at all. Anyway, so how would you decide this? You've got, so U.S. Sailing has a bunch of these, and then Scuttlebutt has some of them. This one I saw in Scuttlebutt yesterday. So we've got this finish line issue. So we're finishing at the pin. S is sailing close-hauled course. P has overstood the port tack lay line and is sailing about 10 degrees below a close-hauled course. S hails starboard, P hails room. S avoids port and protests. In the protest hearing, P claims that she was not sailing close-hauled and therefore she was not on a beat to windward. And that she did not need to tack to finish, i.e. to sail a proper course, therefore she was entitled to mark room from S. So what do you think?
No, she was on a beat to weather because the leg was a beat to weather.
Anybody else?
P's at fault.
Okay. Answer. P is disqualified. She failed to keep clear of S under Rule 10 on opposite tacks. Rule 18.1a and b, mark room. When Rule 18 applies, states that Rule 18 does not apply when the boats are on opposite tacks, on a beat to windward, or when the proper course at the mark for one but not both is to tack. The reason they are not both sailing close-hauled is because P overstood. So sorry, Charlotte. Not Charlotte. Sorry. Sorry, P. So therefore, Rule 18 does not apply. P is, this is World Case 132. Okay, the finish. If a boat touches a finish mark before clearing the finish line, she must complete a one-turn penalty, and then sail completely to the course side of the line before finishing. So look what we have here. In this example, B completed her jibe in position 4 and completes her tack in position 9 before she crossed the line. So is this going to Did she meet her penalty obligations? No. A boat can complete her one-turn penalty anywhere, but after completing it, she must sail completely to the course side of the line and finish. Anyway, she did meet her penalty obligations. She did one jibe at 4. She did her tack at 9 before she crossed the finish line, and then immediately after finishing her tack, she crossed the line. So she did meet her obligations under to do the one-turn penalty. 23.1. Now, see, this is an interesting one. A lot of people don't know 23.1 exists. If reasonably possible, a boat not racing shall not interfere with a boat that is racing. Now, we all know at the start that the class ahead of us is racing, and we need to stay out of the way. But it's the same situation at the finish, that you got to stay out of the way of the boat behind you. So, at position 2, blue has finished and no longer racing. She cleared the line, and I don't know why she bore off. I guess she wanted to go home in a hurry.
Well, she wanted to save her time.
At position 3, she interferes with yellow. Interference is adversely affecting a boat's forward motion or maneuverability. This applies both before and after racing. Be careful where you sail, watch your wind shadow and physical presence. The preamble to Part 2 limits penalties against boats not racing to those under Rule 14 when injury or serious damage, or under 23.1. So in 23.1, we just read that rule. And then Chris, 44, well, we already talked about penalties a long time ago. We could review that if you want. Rule 44, penalties at the time of the incident. A boat may take a 2-turn penalty when she may have broken one or more rules of Part 2 in an incident while racing. However, if the boat causes injury or serious damage, or despite taking a penalty, she gained a significant advantage in the race or series, her penalty is to retire. So if you're on the inside of a 6-boat pinwheel and you sneak in there and they give you room but you hit the mark and then you spin the circle to exonerate yourself from the mark and you're still ahead of 4 of those boats, you just retired. Yeah, and then also we talked about getting well clear earlier. Okay, so we've got the racing rules. So you got the rule book, and I can't remember. I think you still get one free when you're a member of U.S. Sailing. So join U.S. Sailing, you get one free next year. I think that's still true. A great way to learn the rules is with the Dave Perry 100 Best Racing Rule quizzes. You can get that from U.S. Sailing. As I said, most of the rules stay the same for 2025. The other thing you can get from U.S. Sailing is you can download an app to your Android or iPhone. And if you're a member of U.S. Sailing, it will work. It has all the rules on your device. And there are links to the Dave Perry Racing Rules of Sailing, where he explains how the rules work. One of the great ways to learn the rules is, and the nuances of the rules, is with the casebook. So World Sailing Casebook, this is authoritative, and there's a number of cases that are situations where the rule makers want you to see that situation so that protest committees rule the same way in similar situations. The appeals book is the appeals of the U.S. Sailing. Same thing. We talked about that a little earlier. One of the nice things about it is as part of the table of contents, it shows all of the appeals diagrams. So you can flip through in one place to see if there's any diagrams that is a situation similar to yours. Again, the appeals book is to be consistent. And so you can see how the situation plays out and the nuances of what the decision would be. The appeals are guidelines, whereas the World Sailing Casebook is authoritative. Dave Dellenbaugh, he gave me permission to use some of his material in this presentation. He now does, so it's, as you can see, it's www.speedandsmarts.com. For years he did a publication, Speed and Smarts. Now he's just doing webinars. They're a no-brainer deal. I recommend you to sign up for them. It's $55, 4 sessions. Actually, a couple of them now have had 5 sessions. Situations where the rule makers want you to see that situation so that protest committees rule the same way in similar situations. The appeals book is the appeals of the U.S. sailing. Same thing. We talked about that a little earlier. One of the nice things about it is as part of the table of contents, it shows all of the appeals diagrams. So you can flip through in one place to see if there's any diagrams that is a situation similar to yours. Again, the appeals book is to be consistent. And there again, if you wanted to watch the whole thing, it's $40. I stopped buying books a long time ago, except for a couple books that he recommended. I'd subscribed to Speed and Smarts for years. Each issue had a theme, and so it kept me refreshed that way. He also teaches Learn the Racing Rules 2024. As I said, not much will change for 2025. Rule 18 a little bit. And Part 5, the appeals, protests, etc., redress. The words basically stay the same, but the layout and the flow will change. Thank you. Thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed this.